Hi, and welcome to Pre-Shift, a UX design case study. In the fall of 2020, I began to explore the idea of a responsive web app as a resource for managers in the restaurant industry. Having a background as a restaurant general manager and certified sommelier, I have first-hand experience with the struggles and lack of resources in this industry. I was responsible for a wide variety of roles during this project, including research, ideation, testing, and visual design. I spent most of my time in Figma. Restaurants have high turnover rates with their employees. Training can be costly and time-consuming. Because of this, restaurant managers do not receive enough or any training to handle the demands of their stressful job. This impacts their quality of life, work performance, and overall service being provided at restaurants across our country. Our users need a way to connect to a broad community of industry experts who can offer good advice, support, inspiration, and a community to lean on. That's why I designed Pre-Shift, as a way to connect restaurant managers throughout the nation and expand their resources and community. While building this product, I applied the user-centered design process throughout. To start, I conducted a competitive analysis. I began by identifying the competitors. Since my goal for this app was to be a resource for restaurant managers, I chose Mind Tools and Manager Tools to analyze. Manager Tools offered some insight, but was mostly a podcast app, which limited the experience it provided. On the other hand, Mind Tools offered great insight into the types of tools professionals need, as well as stumbling blocks that could prevent users from using a similar app. In order to understand users' attitudes towards apps and industry resources, as well as their needs, goals, and pain points, I conducted user interviews. I gathered 3 participants in my target demographic, 30 to 55-year-olds, who are currently restaurant managers or owners. I asked a series of open-ended questions regarding being a restaurant manager and the day in the life of. The participants interviewed were diverse in their experience, demographic, and responses. I found that restaurant managers mostly rely on other friends in the industry as a resource. In fact, it was the #1 resource listed when asked. After gathering the useful insight gained from interviews, I was able to make some further design decisions. I knew I wanted to find a way to connect restaurant managers to a larger community of industry experts. I knew I wanted to provide a resource designed specifically for the industry by providing a way to connect restaurant managers to a larger community of industry experts. I also knew the app needed to offer cost-effective features to appeal to smaller restaurants with tighter budgets. User surveys were also conducted. 20 participants were surveyed to gather quantitative research data and gain a better understanding of the kind of features that would benefit users the most. One of the most useful findings included that a staggering 40% of the participants said they didn't receive training at all. With those insights in mind, I created 2 personas that I referred to for the rest of the design process. I chose 2 personas to represent each distinct target audience I identified through research. Mental models were created for a deeper understanding of the user's motivations and thought processes, including the emotional context in which products are being used. These are the mental model diagrams created for each persona. The processes outlined through the mental model diagrams help me better visualize the user journey. User journeys were created to convey a visual story of the process each individual personas will go through in order to accomplish a goal. The processes outlined through mental model diagrams help me better visualize the user journey. User journeys were created to convey a visual story of the process each individual persona will go through in order to accomplish a goal. Within each journey, specific tasks, thoughts, emotions, and opportunities were portrayed for each persona. User flows are created in order to make the design more user-centered by not just focusing on individual pages. I use user flows as a tool for discovering what pages or screens of the app were needed before beginning the information architecture phase. I created 3 different user flows during this stage. Each flow was defined by a user story, information gathering, and an objective of the persona. These 3 flows allowed me to begin creating the core architecture of PreShift. Based on the features and opportunities I identified in the user flows and journey maps, I designed a site map to form the structure of the app. It was now time to iterate screens using hand sketches and digital wireframes. These screens included a launch screen, onboarding screens, sign-up screen, progressive onboarding screens, home page, and a more detailed look into the chat feature, including browsing for an expert and connecting with one that is available right away. Using Figma, I translated these into high-fidelity prototypes and began my usability testing. These tests provided me with usability insights and copywriting expressions I needed to move forward with the PreShift. Most notably, I refined the way people interact by connecting with an industry expert, the home screen, and progressive onboarding. I used a rainbow spreadsheet to analyze my results and prioritize the 5 main critical errors. I then made the appropriate changes to the design. Once I felt comfortable in the base architecture and usability of PreShift, I implemented UI designs, iOS guidelines, and design principles. I ultimately created a design system language as a standard brand guide to create a cohesive user experience. I further improved accessibility of the product by referring to Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. After reviewing the guidelines, I made changes to the PreShift app in order to increase accessibility to more users. I was able to make many small improvements that made a huge difference in accessibility. I will continue to focus on improvements and adding new features to the chat and community aspects of PreShift. Broadening resources and communities are what was proven to be most important for users in the initial testing. To see if this is still accurate and to see how we are delivering, we will test our users after a few months based on a variety of methods. Ethnographic field studies in a restaurant setting will provide valuable insight testing users in their natural environment while interacting with the app. I would also like to improve on the design of the logo, as well as find better ways to curate information for the user based on their preferences. Through interviews and testing, I often found ways I would not have thought to improve the architecture, copy, and UI of the design. It's important to revisit the project scope and personas to stay focused on the problem that needs solving. Lastly, user-centered design is an ongoing process that requires a feedback loop and iterations. Each design should be treated as a living product that will be updated and improved on often. Thank you for viewing the PreShift case study. Please let me know if there are any questions about the project or if you want to collaborate.